So the Berlin Wall took place from August 12th, 1961 to November 9th, 1989, and was the mark for the communist and capitalist tensions that led to the Cold War, because it split the two political ideas within Europe and Germany specifically. So, on to the first part. The key players within the Vienna Summit, which was held on June 1st, 1961 in Vienna, Austria, between President John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev, who was the premier of the Soviet Union, and they were both the leaders of the two superpowers of the Cold War era, and they discussed numerous issues of the relationship between their countries, and as well how Europe should be governed. Next, key players were Lyndon B. Johnson. He was the vice president for John F. Kennedy and really supported John F. Kennedy's want to assist the European countries, and accompanied John F. Kennedy to Berlin, where he gave a speech to boost the German morale. Second, there was Walter Ulbricht, who was a German communist politician, and he played the leading role in the creation of the Weimar era, the Communist Party of Germany, the KPD, and as well the establishment of East Germany. And he was the first secretary of the Socialist Unity Party and the actual leader of East Germany. Third was Willy Brandt, was a German statesman and politician, the leader of the Social Democratic Party of Germany, and Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany from 1969 to 1974. And he strengthened the cooperation of Western Europe through the EEC between West Germany and the eastern countries of Europe. Next is Erich Honecker. Erich Honecker was a German politician who was the General Secretary of the Socialist Unity Party, led the German Democratic Republic from 1971 until the end of the Berlin Wall's fall in 1989. Next is Egon Kretz, a former politician from the German Democratic Republic, or East Germany, and was the country's last leader during its final months in 1989. Next, we all know Ronald Reagan with the famous quote, "Tear down this wall," who challenged the Soviet Union leader Mikhail Gorbachev to destroy the Berlin Wall in a speech at Brandenburg Gate near the Berlin Wall on June 12, 1987, commemorating the 750th anniversary of Berlin, and he challenged Gorbachev to remove the communist regime. Next is President John F. Kennedy, who we know traveled to Vienna during the summit meeting, but he also traveled to Berlin in the summer of 1963 and gave a speech to rally up the German morale in the quote, "Let them come to Berlin," or as the Germans took it, "Ich bin ein Berliner," meaning I am a citizen of Berlin and am a citizen of Berlin. Lastly is Mikhail Gorbachev. He was a former Soviet statesman, and he was the eighth and last leader of the Soviet Union, having served as the General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union from 1985 until 1991, when the party was dissolved. Next we have, what happened in Berlin? What happened? What was the Berlin Wall? Well, the Berlin Wall was a 13-foot barrier that split Europe and Germany from the communist regime and the capitalist regime. The communists gave a shoot-to-kill order, which severely hurt many civilians, for those who wanted more freedom. And then the Berlin Wall was also more permeable from the east to the west, rather than the west to the east. So, and then key dates was also November 11th, 1958. Nikita Khrushchev declared the London Protocol of 1944 was invalid, and that U.S., France, and Britain had fortified their right to be present in Berlin. In May 1961, NATO had a meeting, and they decided that West Berlin should choose their own political system and shouldn't be forced under a communist regime. From 1955 to 1961, more than 200,000 people, mostly skilled professionals, left East Germany annually, and East Germany realized it could not survive its population and began to close its borders. From August 12th to the 13th, 1961, a war militia and East Germany police set up barbed wire fence to close the border between East and West Germany in the night, and within the next weeks it was replaced with concrete. October 1961, the American and Soviet tanks confronted each other at Checkpoint Charlie, one of the few crossings between East and West Germany, and many people feared nuclear war because the superpowers were on high alert. In October 1989, East Germans gave into the protests of the East German cities who demanded greater freedom, and the government began to act with reform. On November 9, 1989, the East German government announced and revised the version of East Germany's travel law that reduced border restrictions. As a result, the citizens flocked the wall and hammered and forced new openings into the barrier, and West Berlin was waived in December. The visa requirements for West Berlin were waived in December, but passports remained in check until June of 1990. Next, the impact of the Berlin Wall in the Cold War. Well, the Berlin Wall split communism and capitalism, which led to increased political tensions. And since both superpowers began their innovation as they fought for Europe's dominance and the way it would be governed, they grew to dislike each other, and they grew with the threat of being on high guard and high alert, ready to attack one another. And this impacted the Cold War because it led to the political tensions of the capitalists and communism, and the difference in their ideals and how things should be run. So that's the Berlin Wall, and have a great day.